Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. Please click the link below to support our sponsor, Firearms for You. That's firearmsforyou.com. So what is Bitcoin? And is it the future of money? What is this cryptocurrency, this peer-to-peer network that trades back and forth, has a value, can be converted on exchanges like Mt. Gox, which has been recently persecuted by government agencies, and millions of dollars withdrawn? What's up with all this price volatility, and is it a legitimate alternative to fiat currency, what the US dollar is today, backed by nothing, not worth the paper printed on and used as a butt wipe to wipe myself this morning after my firm cup of coffee. Now, it's important to note that Bitcoin is also fiat in nature. It's not really backed by anything outside of the algorithm itself, which we could say is maybe somewhat tangible. I would argue at least more tangible than the US dollar. And of course, there's been a lot of price volatility over the past few months, with Bitcoin going from the single digits to 100 to 200, all the way to above 1,000, then crashing, and now hovering around the $800 range. And there's a lot of hoopla, there's a lot of mainstream media attention. Twins, the famous twins, the Winklevoss twins, of course, that were famous for litigating Mark Zuckerberg, billionaire, the founder of Facebook, for stealing their idea, have now taken the idea of Bitcoin to Wall Street. Wall Street's taking an interest now. In fact, the Winklevoss twins are going to start a new exchange-traded fund backed by Bitcoin. And this is really interesting. It also brings up a host of questions. Now, of course, there's advantages to Bitcoin like low overhead. There's really no transaction costs, which is great because if you're wire transferring from bank to bank, usually they're going to charge you a percentage point, which is pretty rich. One of the reasons they do that is because of the gross regulation that comes from the federal government that forces companies like PayPal to, well, charge anything at all. Bitcoin operates on its own planet. It's almost like on a different hemisphere. It's a different ball game. It's global in scope and global in nature, which means that anybody around the world can exchange Bitcoins back and forth as long as they have an internet connection. This opens up the marketplace and makes it truly global, like it's never been before in history. This is amazing. And you can also mine Bitcoin, which a lot of people find a little bit complex, and I admit that it is, where they've hooked up servers with very powerful high-end graphics cards to mine Bitcoin. Because basically these servers connect over the internet. They solve complex mathematical equations, these permutations that they figure out to authenticate and verify the value of Bitcoin itself. Now, although I'm a tremendous bull on Bitcoin, in fact, I've been talking about digital currency for years now, and I most certainly believe it's the future, I can't help but remain somewhat skeptical to the nature of Bitcoin and who exactly is behind it. And you see, that's where many people have a problem. Many critics point out that there seems to be a hole in the story that is known as Bitcoin itself. The founder of Bitcoin is a mysterious being. His name is Satoshi Nakamoto. It could be a person, it could be a group, it could even be a nefarious government. And that's where I have a little bit of trouble with Bitcoin itself, especially that the Federal Reserve seems to be opening up to the idea. Ben Bernanke recently admitting that Bitcoin is actually a legitimate alternative currency choice. That's completely diametrically opposed to what he's said about gold in the past. But for some reason, the exiting Fed chairman and soon-to-be Janet Yellen have, well, what appears to be open arms to the digital currency. Now, why would the Federal Reserve have open arms to a digital currency that threatens to destabilize the very nature of the world reserve currency itself? Something that the United States continues to fight gross wars over, whether or not it's Iraq, Afghanistan, or really anywhere else in the world. Americans die to protect the world reserve currency, yet the Federal Reserve somehow seems to be open to the idea. And of course you have the pumpers, you've got maybe the dumpers like the Winklevoss twins that have a self-interest and probably not the greatest track record considering they made all of their money suing. And I don't really have a lot of respect for people that are sue happy. In fact, I think it's one of the things that's wrong with America today. It's made it such a tragic place. People can just be sue happy and become millionaires. The Winklevoss twins have a self-interest to pump this currency. Now, of course, Bitcoin is one of many competing digital currencies today. In fact, a competitor many of you have probably heard of, known as Litecoin and others, threaten to destabilize Bitcoin. In fact, that's what's interesting about the market, is that although Bitcoin is a first mover, and you probably got to give it a little weight for that reason, it's a totally competing, really kind of a capitalistic global market of digital currency. Or is it? Does the federal government have a self-interest in the digital age? Do they have a self-interest? I mean, we know that they're spying on us through the NSA and the gross wiretapping and spying of American citizens and diplomats around the world. We know that that's taking place. Well, why wouldn't they have an agenda with Bitcoin itself? So although I'm a tremendous bull digital currency, again, I remain skeptical as to the nature of Bitcoin, the origin of Bitcoin, and the motives behind it. I mean, when I really think about it, even if it was started on legitimate means for the betterment of humanity, it was started by an Edward Snowden type, I could understand that. But it would be soon to be co-opted by the federal government and the powers that be that have a self-interest to control what it is to have control over the money system itself. The power of the purse. That's what keeps people enslaved. So even if the federal government wasn't involved in the very beginning, and I can see why Satoshi would have a self-interest to remain mysterious, otherwise he would be hunted like Edward Snowden. We can't be as dumb as to think that the federal government isn't all over this investment. That their CIA hedge fund arm or their connections or they're just pushing people around doesn't have a tremendous influence on this new coin, this digital, crypto, peer-to-peer network currency. What do you think? Are you buying Bitcoin? Are you actually using it as a real medium of exchange? And that is kind of where I think, well, we also have a problem. Are people really using it to buy things? Or are they just using it to, well, hoard and to build the speculative bubble even further because they think it's a wealth creation tool? Is it a legitimate alternative to the dollar? And is it any different from the dollar? Knowing and keeping in mind that, well, it really isn't backed by anything outside of the algorithm itself. Would it be better if digital currency was backed by gold or silver or something maybe real? Something that it could be based off of? And in a worst case scenario, if the grid does go down, the electricity goes out, or there's a bomb or an EMP that goes off, that, well, you might have something of tangible worth. At least with gold and silver, you can wear it around your neck. You can do something with it. You can make it into fine jewelry. Your girlfriend or your wife or your significant other might like to wear it. But with digital currency, you're reliant on the internet itself. You're reliant on broadband. You're reliant on an algorithm. And that's what's amazing and also scary, is that we as the people of the world are now dependent on this algorithm. Whether or not it's through the search engine of Google, whether or not it's the advertisements being fed to us by and through our unique paradigm, or it's this new digital currency that, in my opinion, promises to revolutionize the world. Will Bitcoin emerge as the victor? Honestly, I don't know. But what I'm certain of is that digital currency will. I'm Christopher Green. Click the link below to support our sponsor, hard-hitting and in your face as usual. Get it out everywhere. Put a comment in the description box below and get it out to the viewing public.